Hi, my name is Joan Burns. I'm a grandmother in Michigan that has a grandchild in Paulding County, Georgia, that is currently in the DFACS CPS system that I have been working desperately to get him out of this system. Um, it has been one of the most difficult things I have ever done in my life. I'm working with the Paulding County DFACS as well as the Michigan CPS. I've undergone home inspections, background checks, drug screenings. Um, they went over my bills. It walked through my house. It's I've done everything to get my grandchild to Michigan that Georgia has asked me to do. I have met with nothing but resistance from the Paulding County DFACS or CPS that from the very beginning it has been a hostile relationship where they are annoyed with my emails, requesting help, requesting what I need to do. Uh, there has just been little help on that end. The caseworker that is over my daughter's case actually, in my opinion, should not be over her case, that there is a previous history with her boyfriend at the time and a current family history between my daughter and this family member. I have reached out to the department multiple times, over 14 times, to this caseworker, Crystal Mayfield supervisor, Tabitha Burrell, and the director of DFACS, Jason Ehrman, requesting that there be a change of caseworker on this case, that in my opinion, she cannot give a fair and unbiased opinion of my daughter, my grandson, or myself. In over 14 emails reaching out for a change of caseworker, which was denied, no one ever asked me what the concerns were. They never asked about the history. They never asked why I felt there would be an unbiased, uh, why she could not give an unbiased opinion. CPS has failed my daughter since my grandson has been in custody, and she has gotten court ordered visits twice a week. Those have not happened. The Paulding County DFACS has missed 36 visits in 6 months, and they always cite transportation issues. They allowed my grandchild to be taken 3 hours away, where my daughter once a week is allowed to drive 3 hours in Atlanta traffic to see her son for 2 hours and then drive 3 hours back home. Virtual visits have been stopped due to the caseworker deeming them not necessary. My virtual visits with my grandson were stopped because of a Facebook meme that I posted that stated the most dangerous place in the world is between a mother and her child. I was immediately declared a violent threat, even though they have my background check and see there is no criminal history, no history of violence in any kind. It was strictly retaliation for an email that my daughter had sent the caseworker, that while it was not very nice and she did curse Miss Mayfield, she never threatened Miss Mayfield. Miss Mayfield did call the Paulding County Police, who did do a police report, and it clearly states in the police report that while the email wasn't nice in what she said to her, there was no articulatable threat. There was no threat. The meme was never reported to the police as a threat, but it was certainly used to label me a violent person. They certainly used it to cancel all virtual visits that were 800 miles away. They certainly used it to limit my in person visits with my grandson and require them to be supervised. It has just, they used it in court to declare me a violent person and try to say that I threatened a social worker. The threats that they continue to use against me to keep me away from my grandchild were never intended as threats. No one was ever threatened. It was a Facebook meme that I have actually shared, had they bothered to look at my Facebook, at least 20 times before. I've had it at one point as a sticker on my Jeep. It is literally just a meme. It's never been about what is best for my grandson. Even in the emails that I have from CPS, they admit there is a bond. We have a loving grandmother relationship, grandmother grandson relationship. The judge stated that in the January hearing under oath. No one has ever found fault with anything I have done personally. It has all been retaliation against my daughter. The latest email was that I had not denounced my daughter's wedding, which they had put was concerning that she did not seek CPS approval before getting married and that it was a sporadic wedding. Had they been following up with my daughter monthly as they were supposed to do and how they stated in court had been done, they had would have realized that her and her husband had been in a relationship for a while. It's not that she met someone new in her life and got married. She's known him since she was 5 or 6 years old. They've always been in each other's lives. We were close when they were younger. I know him. I know his family. There absolutely were no concerns when she married Gaston. Um, the email that I received in March became quite a topic in court because it did show where CPS had informed me in writing, um, after I had continued to reach out to them for months. Is there anything else I need to do on my end? Is there anything you need? What can I do to expedite this process? And I sent a lot of emails during this time, and the caseworker, um, I think, got annoyed. And in an email she sent me, she stated, I received this March 13th. She had no obligation to work with me because they had screened me out since March. And so I don't know what you want from us. I immediately asked, when was I screened out in March or in November? What were the reasons? Who screened me out? What can I do to remedy this situation? And I was told there was no remedy for the situation. When it come up in court, CPS stated that they had continued to work with the family right up until March 21st, the day of the hearing, which is not true at all. Um, I did give testimony under oath about the email that I received in March stating that I had been screened out since November, and showed that CPS literally had ruled me out as placement then and gave me no opportunity to try to remedy that situation. I was called a liar. I was asked if I knew if perjury was a crime by the CPS attorney, Gail Abramson. Um, she asked if I had proof of that. I said yes, I have the email. Um, Kaylee's court appointed attorney did bring up the email, and the CPS attorney immediately tried to have it blocked, that it wasn't to be entered into evidence. Um, the lawyer did get it used as evidence to impeach the witness, the case manager, and it was only at the point where she had to read her own email stating they had screened me out since November that she admitted under oath that those were her words. She wrote that email. It has just been a railroad situation that going into a hearing as a grandmother accused of no crimes ever except for posting a meme, I was treated as a criminal. I was questioned under oath about the love for my daughter, the love for my grandchild. It was questioned why, when he was born in 2020, I only visited once. I was reminded them that in 2020 we were in the midst of a global pandemic and that my state was on lockdown, and I felt it was definitely safer not to see him, not to go from a COVID hotspot and possibly infect my brand new grandbaby. It was brought, even during this time, I had virtual visits with my daughter, with my grandbaby. But to be questioned about the love that you have for your grandchild because you didn't visit during a global pandemic is cruel. To be told by a CPS attorney, Gail Abrams, that grandmother is just a word, a child doesn't know biology, is vile. To have Kaylee's dead father brought up in court and have it be alleged that he died from drug abuse and have that be sent in an email by CPS to me stating your husband died from drug abuse. Is that correct? That came from Miss Tabitha Burrell. That is not correct. And if CPS had at any time reached out to the family or even looked in their own case file, they would have realized that Kaylee's father died in 2020 at the height of the COVID pandemic. He had stage 3 pancreatic cancer, he had heart disease, and he had been in that hospital on a respirator for 30 days, which they thought at the time was pneumonia, and were treating for an unknown pneumonia. The day he died, Carrollton Hospital had their first positive cases of COVID in that hospital. It is unbelievable how CPS, without ever reaching out to me, without ever reaching out to anyone, could draw conclusions and to jump to bringing up the dead, just the things that they have said.
Irrelevant.
It was the termination date was on the 21st. Kaylee had asked in person, in writing, multiple times since February for her case file in order to defend herself. That never was given to her. She never, ever has been given access to her case file. She asked her court appointed attorney, who showed up late both days, the court, if to subpoena 3 witnesses that could help her defense. That was never done. She requested that in writing, and it was never done. There were never any strategy meetings. There was never any, let's talk about what we're going to testify against. Her attorney during the court lunches took his meals with the CPS staff. Uh, and regarding the CPS staff, there was 21 people that were involved, 21 paid CPS people on a Zoom meeting and in person, along with 4 interns who were excited to see a termination hearing, that were there for my daughter, myself, and her husband. It is absolutely disgusting that 21 people could be involved in a hearing, but not one of those 21 people ever reached out to the family at any time. Are you working through the process? Is there any help you need? What can we do to explain things to you? That never happened. It was always about placing my grandchild in a foster home that was considered an adoptive home. There was never any help on with the department on my end to try to make this process any easier. I think what I need is help. My daughter's rights were terminated. I do have the option to refile for guardianship, um, but I need to do that quickly. I'm trying to get help with an attorney in Georgia, or if anyone has advice on what else I can do, um, any kind of help, or just sharing the story, getting the story out there, will definitely help. What has happened in Paulding is a disgrace. It shouldn't happen anywhere. That when the witness was impeached on the stand, there was no cries of liar, no cries of perjury on that end. There was false testimony given throughout the case. And when I asked for the transcripts of this trial, I was denied by the judge. But then to hear from Gail Abramson, and if that name sounds familiar, it probably should. She is the former Fulton County special prosecutor. She was a rising star in their department, who was forced to resign after there was a wiretap that their department put on a high profile murder case, and it was alleged that Miss Abramson was caught using drugs multiple times with multiple people while on duty. The wiretap was since sealed. She was allowed to resign. The Brian Nichols trial, which would be the Atlanta courthouse shooting, did call her into deposition, and you can look at the deposition online, which does allege a lot of drug abuse, and it was given by Miss Abramson when she was called on trial to testify under oath, she did take the fifth. It is just mind blowing that an attorney accused of misconduct, accused of drug abuse, not in just one case, in two, would be allowed to resign and go right to Paulding County defects and be able to work with family and children. I just don't see how that can happen. I don't see how a judge at the end of the hearing can tell me and tell the court that the system failed us, that there were mistakes on the part of Paulding County defects or CPS and mistakes in the court, and that no case would ever be handled like this again, and then seal the records. I don't see how that is still allowed. Um, Thank you for listening.